Hi, this is Zach Meir with the US stock highlights here on Share Talk for Monday, the 19th of April. And a bit of a thin day with the Dow down nearly 200 points, but we soldier on regardless. Starting off with AMBO Education, you can see that the shares have delivered one of their periodic spikes, or gap spikes, let's say. So we actually had one there in June last year, the one in September, and January as well, and then now. But it appears that the market's sort of waiting for something big to happen, then it gets excited and then it doesn't happen. But we've got to go with the flow, and here we've had a bear trap gap reversal, end of day close above the area of the 50 and 200-day moving averages. Let's call it $2.5 or $2.50 plus. Could see the shares up to $4, which is the top of that range, recent range, post-February range, and also the top of a triangle that can be drawn from the middle part of that month. This stage generally back below the overnight gap. That's around $2.09, really delaying the journey to, or the notional journey to, the $4 area. $4 perhaps seen as soon as the end of next month. Onto another stock which is looking bullish on a rather negative day, American River. And here we'll be able to see that the shares have managed to gap massively higher today. The notional target here is late July, rather late August resistance line projection. That's currently pointing as high as $26. And once the consolidation of the recent rally or the latest gap higher is complete, then that could be the destination over the next 1 to 2 months, so maybe up towards the end of June, maybe May if we're lucky. Ideally, there's no break back below the previous pre-gap higher resistance at $17.24, so any dips towards the $17.50 to $18 area probably what the bulls would be looking for at the moment. But $26 valid while we hold above the $17 area. On to another stock which has some sign of following through on the upside, BBQ Holdings. Here probably the best stock of the day in some ways. You can see that we're in a rising trend channel that's been in place since the end of January, and the top of the channel there heading towards $20. That target valid while we hold above the floor of the channel around the $10 mark, and obviously that's been recent support, $9.95, the low in the middle of last week. If you're trying to tighten up that stop loss, then an end of day close back below today's initial support at $11.05 would be the place to go. Obviously, a retest could be on the cards around $15.60, retesting the initial April resistance for $20, possibly as soon as the end of next month, maybe on the cards while we hold above the $10 area. Moving along to a stock which is also a newbie for this particular trading sequence. We've got CMMB Therapeutics, and here we've got another kind of a wedge breakout, or an attempted wedge breakout. We need to break that today's high, $46.17 on an end of day close basis to open up that wedge and give us a retest of initial April resistance at $72, which already seems like it's a long way away. Otherwise, the alternative is to buy any dips towards the 200-day moving average, currently just below the $29 level, and using recent supporters at $25.33 as the stop loss. But let's see if $46 can be broken. That's probably the easiest way to go at the moment. As I said, this is a relatively thin day, so not that great selection of opportunities. On to a boomer stock in every manifestation, Harley Davidson. Here we've had a gap through the old resistance area, that January resistance at 43.47, and while we're above that on an end of day close basis looking for higher prices, you could choose the stop loss either right just below the $43 level, or the an end of day close back below the overnight gap, which was around the $41 level. But looks as though while we're above 43, looking for higher prices, and $60 to the target by the end of next month if everything goes smoothly and there's decent follow-through. The reason for thinking there would be decent follow-through is the way that we've had not only a gap higher today, but we had a gap higher at the end of last month, and we also had a gap down at the beginning of February. So it's an island reversal with a double gap, in fact arguably triple gap. So that does suggest that there's being a re-rate, ongoing re-rate of Harley-Davidson shares at the moment. Moving along to a less high-profile stock, or at least the name is not quite such a brand, let's say. We've got Knoll. Here we've got a situation where there's been a massive gap to the upside. The issue now really is to see where the shares might retrace. So 2082 is that resistance line, former resistance line, which is now notional support. We've got that low there from June 2019. So hopefully we'll see the $21 area hold ahead of a move towards as high as $30 by the end of next month for Knoll. On to another stock, which it's actually a stock we've looked at before, so that's something of a relief in the current situation where there's a dearth of situations to look at. Here we see how MOXC has retraced sharply from the initial April peak through $7.38 to be precise. We've seen the new support here, the low of Friday, around $3.63. That ties in with the old resistance from August last year, $3.44. Nice gap, let's say, between the old resistance and new support suggests this is a strong situation, which probably don't need to tell me that. And while there's no end of day close back below today's initial support at $3.72, looking towards the top of the rising trend channel from the end of, well, I suppose the end of August last year, as high as $8, and that could be seen as soon as the end of next month. Another of today's big rises is coming up next, MRLN Business Services. Here we've got a situation where the shares have gapped up massively, taken out, which is useful, taken out that old January 2020 resistance area up to 21.50. What we're looking for now really is an end of day close back above 21.50. But the bull argument very much valid while we hold above that old support from the end of 2019, November 2019. At $19, while there's no end of day close back below $19, looking towards $28 and perhaps a bit more than that actually over the next month or two. So maybe going into the end of May, 29 plus the best case scenario at the moment, while we hold above the $19 zone on MRLN Business Services. Just three stocks to go now. One that I've enjoyed charting just because of the rather esoteric name, Freight Car America. Here we've got another situation where new support has been found just above old resistance. The old peaks there around $4.56, and the new support for today and the end of last week around the $4.62 level. So that's a nice support resistance gap or differential, let's say, or difference rather. And while we hold above the $4.60 area, looking for as high as $10 by the end of next month, which is an early 2020 resistance line projection from late January of last year. So that's a nice little setup there, as I say, on a day when there aren't too many nice setups. On to a stock which is another of today's rises, SYTA Mobile, and here we've got a decent rebound off this uptrend line which has been in place since October. It looks like Friday's low there at $11.68, rather not $11.68, at $8.70. And while we're above that on an end of day close basis, looking for not only initial April resistance around $12 plus, but also as high as a resistance line projection from December pointing to $18, and that could be on for the end of next month. So above $8.70 up to $18 is a best case scenario by the end of next month. For cautious on the shares, maybe wait for a decent end of day close above the 50-day moving average. That's also today's high at $11. So let's see if that breaks, and that would be a decent momentum trigger for the shares. As I said, it's a bit of a dull day on the movers. So just finishing off with the stock which has had some rather negative news. Tesla so far looks to be shaking off that news at the moment. We actually had a gap to the upside last week, and so the shares have basically managed to deliver a gap rebound, and the floor of the gap there at $704.80. While we're above that on an end of day close basis, looking for a retest of last week's peak at $780. So above that old 704, looking for 780 on Tesla at the moment. would also be useful to get a decent end of day close back above the 50-day moving average at 703, as long as we remain above that, and the gap floor area. It's still looking bullish for Tesla. And for those who are fans of Tesla, there may be one or two people out there. Big picture target here over the next 2 to 3 months, as high as $1,000 rather, which could be seen as soon as the end of June if we get out of this current setback that the shares have delivered. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.